All right, so we're looking at some pretty interesting stuff happening up north.
Yeah.
You sent over this article about HIMARS being deployed to Shemya, Alaska, and I gotta say,
Right.
that's not exactly a place you see on postcards very often.
Not exactly a dream vacation destination, that's for sure.
So give us a quick geography lesson. Where is this place and why is it important?
Okay, so Shemya, it's this little island way out in the Aleutian chain, closer to Russia, actually, than mainland Alaska.
Hmm, closer to Russia. Okay.
Yeah, and that's really the key here. It's all about location, location, location.
Okay, so let's paint the picture for our listener. What exactly is going on up there that's got everyone's attention?
All right, well, basically, you've got 8 Russian military aircraft, and get this 4 vessels, including submarines.
Submarines. Oh, those are always a little unnerving, right?
Yeah, they definitely get your attention. Anyway, they were spotted hanging out conducting operations near Alaska.
Okay, but they didn't actually enter U.S. airspace,
Yeah,
right?
they didn't cross that line. Officially, anyway.
Still gonna make you wonder, though, right?
Oh, absolutely. This kind of activity from the Russians, it's not exactly an everyday occurrence. It's definitely a power move.
And that brings us to the U.S. response. Those HIMARS being sent to Shemya. So, for anyone who's not up on their military jargon, what are we talking about here?
So HIMARS stands for High Mobility Artillery Rocket System. It's basically a truck that can launch a whole bunch of really powerful rockets really, really far.
Like, how far are we talking?
We're talking hundreds of miles. And these aren't just any rockets. We're talking precision-guided munitions. They can hit a target the size of a car from way out.
Okay, now that's impressive. And that's what makes them so significant in the situation, right?
Exactly. It's a huge show of force from the U.S., basically saying, hey, we see you, and we're ready to respond if we have to.
It's not just about having a big stick, though, is it? It's about being able to use it anywhere.
HIMARS are highly mobile. You can move them by plane ship, even by road if you need to. That makes them incredibly versatile and unpredictable, which is a powerful deterrent.
So it's like a chess game. You got to anticipate your opponent's moves and be ready to counter.
Exactly. And this deployment to Shemya, it's a strategic move. It's about sending a message and strengthening the U.S. position in the region.
And the timing of all of this is
Yeah.
interesting too, right?
Yeah.
Because we're seeing increased Russian and Chinese activity in the Arctic.
Right. Absolutely. The Arctic is becoming a hotbed of geopolitical tension. There's a lot at stake up there. Resources, shipping routes, even military advantages.
So this deployment, it's not just about this one incident. It's about a much bigger picture.
Right. It's about the U.S. asserting its presence and protecting its interests in a region that's becoming increasingly important.
We've also got to talk about the Air Defense Identification Zone, the ADIZ.
Ah, yes, the ADIZ. Always a fun one to explain.
Well, it's one of those terms that gets thrown around a lot,
Uh,
but I think it's worth breaking down for our listeners.
Sure. So basically, the ADIZ is like a country's early warning system for their airspace. It's an area where they want to know who's flying around, even if it's not technically their territory.
Kind of like a buffer zone, right?
Exactly. It gives them more time to react if something seems fishy. The Russian activity we talked about earlier, it was within Alaska's ADIZ, so even though they didn't cross into U.S. airspace, it still raised some eyebrows.
It's all about sending signals, right? Testing the waters, seeing how far they can push.
Exactly. It's a game of cat and mouse that's been going on between superpowers for decades.
And speaking of pushing back, we've got Senator Dan Sullivan calling for a greater military presence in Alaska.
Yeah, he's definitely concerned about the situation, and he's not alone. A lot of folks in Alaska are feeling uneasy about all this activity in their backyard. They want to make sure they're prepared for whatever might come next.
It's a tough situation all around. You've got these geopolitical tensions rising in a region that's already facing a lot of challenges.
Yeah, the Arctic is a fragile environment. It's already bearing the brunt of climate change, and now you've got these military tensions adding to the mix. It's a recipe for disaster if we're not careful.
So what's the takeaway here for our listener? What's the one thing you want them to remember from all of this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that what happens in the Arctic doesn't stay in the Arctic. It has global implications. We need to pay attention to what's happening up there, and we need to be asking tough questions about the environmental consequences of this increased military activity.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers. But hopefully this deep dive has given our listener a better understanding of what's at stake.
I hope so.
All right, till next time, stay informed, stay curious, and stay tuned.
See you next time.